Network, a Fanboys Inc. production.
Can you dig it, nigga sucker? Ooh, yeah! We boo you because you're both a couple of world-class international a-holes. Time to play the game.
Welcome to another live episode of the Faces and Heels podcast. We have Lewis Perry, me, Jack Purcell. Don't be a jerk. It's no work. Tonight, we've got our big bruising guest, Merc.
Hey, look what I found.
Whoa, your championship belt.
Yeah, that's my championship belt. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, guys?
Well, I am doing fine. Welcome to the Angrygeeks show. How are you? Faces and Heels podcast. Wow, I flashed back to last night. What the heck?
Cross-promotion brain.
Yes, I know. Wrong promotion tonight. Wow, Jack, this is your show. Keep going.
Oh, well, I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the right place. I thought I had the wrong night here.
Wow. Wow.
Well, before we even get started with Merc, and we really appreciate you being here because you made a huge impression the first time I got to see you, and we're gonna talk about that and your return to the Northeast, which we're psyched about. We wanted to give a quick shout out and send some positive thoughts to a friend and again a former guest on the Faces and Heels podcast, Bryce Donovan, who unfortunately is going to be having lung surgery. He had, I guess, a collapsed lung and ended up getting a little more complicated. So he's going to be in for surgery this week, and we just want to wish him the best and see him back in the ring as soon as possible.
Yes, definitely.
So he's like the nicest dude, super creative in the ring, and so we're pumped to get him back in there. And we're gonna talk more about it at another time. But we really want to focus on Merc tonight. So let me just tell you, when I was at the Pro Wrestling Grind debut show, I had a moment that I love, and we've talked about this before, where sometimes when you go to a live show, you've got a lot of wrestlers who are familiar to the crowd. And in the Northeast, we got a lot of guys like Travis Huckabee, Perry Von Vicious, Rip Bison, of course, and Logan Black. And when you came out, it was so badass, like all your gear and everything. And I didn't know of your work at that point. And you guys tore the house down. It was awesome.
Thank you. That was one of my favorite matches I've had in recent memory with Logan. I'm not sure if I'd actually met him before then, but I was aware of him. I'd been out around the Northeast, not quite to New England, a few times for Wrestlers Lab and Battle Club Pro in New York. So I was aware of Logan, and I hadn't really seen a lot of his stuff, but we meshed really well, and I was just over the moon happy with that match. The crowd seemed to be, with their chorus of "Please Come Back" chanted at me, which I was very flattered by. I know the Northeast and that show especially, like, you got to earn that. They won't chant that at anyone. So
yeah, no doubt about it. It was like a very authentic chant, because sometimes you get somebody who comes out the crowd doesn't know, and they don't get that kind of warm reception. And there's been other people who've been in that boat who just didn't win over the crowd. But when you came out, some of the crowd didn't know you, and they knew Logan. And by the time the match was over, like you said, that chant was so authentic and awesome and loud. And so I'm super pumped that you're going to be coming back. and you're not unfortunately having a rematch with Logan Black, but you're going to be going up against Iron Rip Bison.
If I could pick anyone, not just from the Northeast to wrestle, it'd be Rip. I was extremely happy when I found out it was me and him. That I think Rip's one of the most underrated guys in the entire country. Just his whole demeanor, the name Rip Bison, the way he presents himself, and his range as a wrestler. He should. It's a cliche to say, but he should be everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you have in?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jack. What do you have in store for Rip?
Kicks, lots and lots of kicks.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, do you want to call him out? I know Rip is watching. I know he's listening. Do you have anything to say? Do you want to cut a promo, or you want to wait till the end of the night?
I will see what happens, and I'm not much for promos on podcasts. What I got to say to Rip, I can say to his face.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a promo right there. Fair enough. All right. I mean, get your tickets for Grind right now, because yeah, for sure. All right, Jack, continue.
Well, so we should kind of back up a little bit because I got really excited about seeing you at that show, and you made a big impression with me and a lot of the other fans there. So it was exciting, but I want to go back because, again, like I had to kind of go back and find out some of your history. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're from Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, that's where I lived for about 10 years. After I lived outside, about 30 miles away, my whole life in Seymour. But I'm a Missouri boy, born and raised. And I'm currently living in Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Oh, nice. Okay. I mean, I pride myself on having visited every state in the continental U.S. So I know where Springfield, Missouri is. I even did a comic book convention out in Omaha. So I think that's probably like a few hours, not too many hours from you anyway. It's north.
I think Omaha's about 7 or so.
Yeah. I would say 6 or 7. Yeah. I mean, you probably know way better than me. But I thought one thing that was interesting when I was looking back and seeing some of your matches and who you had faced off against, you've had a few different names that you've gone by. How did that evolution happen? Because you were known as Graham Bell and Mordecai Martian, which I thought was really cool. And I'm guessing your gear was different at that time.
My gear was barely gear at that time. It was high stock E-Lucha shorts and kick pads with I call it a trench coat, but it was a High School Musical graduation robe Halloween costume that I'd gotten at a Goodwill, and it hot glued Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards and pipe cleaners too. And it had a big felt top hat that had alien heads on it. And what else did I have? I had mismatched gloves. I think I wore a bunch of different crazy T-shirts. I don't even think I went by that for a full year, largely, when I was Mordecai / Morty the Martian, depending on where I was.
Where did that concept come from? Like, were you a big Pokemon guy at some point, or like where did that concept come from?
The Martian gimmick came about more as it started as like a name, and it was a very, I don't want to call it high concept, but very, I don't know, convoluted idea I had before I ever got into wrestling. And the people around me were like, well, no one's going to like that, because he's like, if you're going to be a Martian, you just need to be a crazy character and just go for it. And so that's what I did. And then the name Graham Bell, as you pointed out, that was because me and my tag partner, Luke Langley, with whom I formed the Interplanetary Alliance, we went to, it was our first show in Oklahoma, and the promoter didn't want a Martian gimmick on his show. He wanted us to be more serious, which I later find really wild, because this was a promoter that created gimmicks such as the Swamp Men and Super Skunk Ape Jr. and Samedi, which was basically a Papa Shango ripoff, but he didn't want a Martian. So, but anyway, my shoot name is Graham Delp, and my guy who's my best friend now misheard me say it and thought I just said Graham Bell. So he's like, you should just be Graham Bell if you can't be Mordecai Martian. I was like, well, all right, I'll do that then. And so that's that, and that name just stuck around for a while.
Wow, well that's really interesting. I'm always fascinated with like how each wrestler comes up with their persona or any kind of elements of their character or presentation. And you kind of mentioned that you kind of categorize yourself as an angry geek. Like, what kind of background do you have? What led you into pro wrestling? Were you a comic book fan at any point? Because I don't know if you know the comic book Merc. That was like back in the mid '80s.
I'm
Make
not
it
familiar with
mid-80s.
that one. No, what led me to pro wrestling was basically just being a kid of the '90s. 6 years old in 1998, I was, easy pickings for DX and doing crotch chops in the hallway. My brother he's about 9 years older than me. He's got a good jump on me, and he watched when he was a kid. He was more into Warrior and Hogan. We got a PlayStation one of the first Christmases we had in our new house. And my mom got us a PlayStation. One of the games she got us was WWF In Your House. And that was really where I got introduced to a lot of these guys. Where I learned about Razor Ramon and Doink and Owen and Bret Hart and The Undertaker. And we played the shit out of that game. And then one day my brother's just like, "Do you want to watch this on TV?" I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And so I watched from there. And there were gaps in my wrestling memory because that was Christmas of '97, which would have been like right after Montreal. But I never remember seeing Shawn Michaels because I had to go to bed an hour into Raw. So like I just have little wild mid card memories, and then like vaguely like Austin coming out in the first half of the show to give someone a stunner to set up for a main event I would never see. But so that's how I got into wrestling. And then again, as far as being a big geek, being a kid in the '90s, I was very susceptible to Pokemon and Power Rangers, and that led me down the rabbit hole of anime and trading card games and about everything else. Comics was one I never really got into. I think that's because that was around the time a lot of the big comics had animated series on TV. I was definitely raised by Fox Kids.
Right on. Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's obviously some transitions, and it's clear you've got some influences that have kind of changed your presentation along the way, which is more of like a military look now.
Excuse me, Jack. I'm getting a lot of feedback on your side, and I cannot fix it on my end. It's like you're crackling.
I don't know. Nothing's moving.
Okay. Okay. Continue.
Oh, well, I mean, sorry, I got stuck on the Merc comic, but I just wondered where the sort of, again, from what I know of your work, the military theme came from. So I've seen you with like the giant bazooka prop and everything, and I just wondered, like, what was the influence? Was there like were you obsessed with Sergeant Slaughter at some point, or was there a wrestling influence?
Really no actual military influence there. Me and my tag partner at one point kind of had a talk. We decided that we had gotten the in-ring part down about as well as we were, going to at that point. And if we wanted to go to the next level, we needed to nail down the character aspect of it. And I had for a long time just had this image in my head of a wrestler coming out with a big just bazooka on their shoulder. And I thought that looked badass. It had big anime vibes to me. And with me and him, he's very much a more grounded personality than I am when it comes to just interacting with people. So I thought of, and I'm a big Deadpool fan. And this, I think, was right after Deadpool, the first movie, came out. So I was like, we should just be Deadpool and Cable. I should have a big bazooka, and you should be Cable mixed in with some Snake Plissken. And so that was it was really just based off an aesthetic to start with. The bazooka was just essentially a big set piece. Didn't really do anything. Half the time it was supposed to go off, it didn't. So we were the Diamond Dogs for a long time, and after he had to take some time off for some real life stuff that happened, I ended up just kind of running with the mercenary thing on my own. And I think it's a good allegory unintentionally for really how we approach the business for a long time, we didn't have what I call a home company, a home fed. We never stayed anywhere long enough to get super established necessarily. We spent a lot of time in the car, on the road, going different places, doing what was asked of us, and hopefully getting paid for it. And I kept that mentality once I got on my singles run. I started riding with the Hooligans, who had a good run in the Northeast for a long time with Beyond. When Beyond was getting off the ground, they took me all over the country in their car, and they really embodied that outlaw mercenary mindset of go here, get paid, do the job, on to the next town. So it fit.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, and it's funny because we've heard different stories from wrestlers who have challenges with some of their props as they are traveling. And I wonder, did you ever have any issues in an airport or anywhere else for that matter with some of your props?
No, I was never dumb enough to try and take that into an airport.
Good.
For sure.
Because we even had wrestlers who got pulled over on the side of the road.
Nah, it's never caused any problems.
Good. I can imagine it could be a challenge because you've traveled quite a bit, from what I understand. Like you did a trip, at least I know, overseas to Japan. Like, what was that experience like? Do you speak other languages? I mean, do you feel comfortable doing that?
Japan was everything I wanted it to be. Unfortunately, I didn't get to work any of the native workers there. It was really a class of us had been offered to train over there, and we had done well enough our first couple of days over there in training that they were like, okay, we can give you guys matches. And then the match we had on the house show, they were like, okay, well, you guys can have a dark match in Cork and Hall since you're over here. So I was like, hell yes. And the training was everything you heard it is, as far as the insane amounts of squats and push-ups and conditioning. But I had definitely trained for it, and I was ready for it. One of my favorite parts of being over there was just hanging out with the guys. We got a lot of respect from the veterans at Wrestle One, which meant a lot because they could have treated us just like their young boys. We did have to help out some, like we helped cook, we clean the showers and the bathrooms and stuff like they had to do, and make our beds and stuff. But they didn't put us through the ringer like they do their young kids. They didn't have to beat us up or.
Hi, we're having technical difficulties, and the technical difficulties that we are having is actually with Mark. So we apologize for the technical difficulties. I stepped off camera for a minute to reboot my system, and he is back. Mark, you there?
Oh, we'll give him a minute. I don't know. We do have unfortunate realities of technical difficulties sometimes.
He's got his mic muted.
Yeah, he may just be switching it up.
Okay. Mark, you there? Yeah, the feedback that we were hearing.
Hear y'all now.
There you go. There you go.
All right, we got video and audio. Okay.
Yes, good. Welcome back.
Glad to be back.
Okay, we're still having a little. All right, we're still having a little problem. All right, we apologize to our listeners and our viewers right now. Mark, are you on your cell phone? Mark is frozen. Jack.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see if we can give him a few minutes. It may just be, who knows what the weather's like. It's not like
true.
So we'll give Mark a moment. But I just wanted to say to you, well, we're going to come back to Mark in a moment. Is my impression was, and again, we'll kind of get all the details in a minute, but Merck strikes me as one of those guys like Devontae's. Remember, we had Devontae's on.
Yeah, correct.
And,
oh, there he is.
Yeah, booted me out again.
Yeah, there you are. Are you on your cell phone? Yeah, we're having. Yeah, and he is having major. There he goes. Let's check. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Hey, I'm big now.
Yeah. Mark, are you okay?
We got some weird crackling coming through on Merck's end. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. That's. At first I thought it was on Jack's end, but it's not. It's on Merck's end, and he's gone again. Yeah, I agree. He is like Devontae's for sure.
Because when I saw him come out, he was fighting Logan Black, who you know well. He's been on the Angrygeeks. He's a big dude, and Merck is a big dude. And I would have thought, he's like 240, but I don't think he is. And when we get him back, we'll kind of talk about that. But he's one of those wrestlers whose persona comes off and makes him appear bigger than he is. At least from my fan perspective, that's what I thought when I saw him. I was like, whoa, like this guy and Logan Black are going to mix it up. And the same when we saw Devontae's, but Devontae's, when he was talking with us, and I imagine Merck may tell us the same thing, is actually not as large as I sort of seen. It seemed like he was like this big 240-pound dude.
Correct. Mark, you're on your cell phone. Do you have earbuds? We're getting some feedback on your end.
Okay, yeah, let me go grab those real quick. Sorry about that.
Okay. That could be part of the problem, Jack. I'm not quite sure. No, there's no crackling while I'm talking on your end, is there?
No, it doesn't sound like it's coming from yours.
Okay.
Best I can tell. I know I'm not chewing on any, like popcorn or anything, so it's not happening here. Well, Lewis has gone silent. I can't hear him. Oh, he's still silent. Now, Lewis, we can't hear. Lewis, your microphone mute or your headphones muted you. Well, while these guys are getting the audio together, let me just tell our listeners that we've got a date to look forward to on Friday, March 25th.
Me now.
Now I can hear you. There you go.
Okay.
I was just telling our listeners while we're waiting, we do have a big date on Friday, March 25th, where the Faces and Heels podcast will be at Pro Wrestling Grind when Merck returns. And like he said, he's going to be taking on Iron Rip Bison.
Correct. Merck, are you all set now?
Apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
And the cracking is gone. I believe it was definitely on your end. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Merck. I was pontificating while we were waiting.
No. You don't have to apologize at all. Not at all. Everything is fine. Go ahead, Jack.
I was pontificating while we were getting the audio together that you kind of struck me like when I saw you in that match that we were talking about for Pro Wrestling Grind. I would have estimated that you were like 235, 240. What is your weight that you generally wrestle at?
And he's froze again.
Uh-oh.
Well, and he jumped back onto another. There, we have two of them. All right. Merck, what is your wrestling weight? That's what Jack is just asking.
My wrestling weight. Right now I'm sitting around 210.
Okay, I wasn't too far off. I just feel like you're one of those guys whose persona kind of makes him seem even bigger than he is. And I think that's a good thing. But I was way off because I was guessing like 235, 240. And especially in there with Logan Black, like you guys were just like trading left and right. And it just felt like physically a very even matchup as well as, in every other way that you could measure.
I get that a lot. I've had several matches with Manders, who, he's a big beefy guy, and with guys like him and Logan, because I match their physicality and their intensity, if I'm not the same size, I've had people call my matches hoss fights. And again, I'm 5'10 right now, sitting around 210. I'm not an exceptionally large dude, but because I'm able to hang with those guys and their style, like, I hit harder than anyone my size, and I can hit harder than most guys their size. So that's, I can walk among giants like that.
Yeah, you've proven that's a fact. So I wondered, what did you do for training? Who did you train with, and how was that journey for you? How did that all happen?
It essentially happened because I was getting real desperate to wrestle. I had been out of high school about a year. I had been trying to save up to go to the Harley Race Wrestling Academy, which was like
Ooh.
an hour and a half from me. But
Oh, and we're sorry we keep losing Merc tonight.
We were just talking about early race.
I know. He must be in a bad cell reception area. We apologize for the technical difficulties that we're having tonight, and Merc is back. We'll add him back to the screen. And wow, okay, you are going to Harley Race's Wrestling Academy, or trying to.
trying to, but I couldn't find a job at the time. This was 2011, and the town I lived in, there just weren't a lot of places that could work around, especially their training schedule. But I was able to find this guy named Chad Sullivan that was training people out of his metalworking shop up in Bucyrus, Kansas, just south of Kansas City. I trained there for about 3 weeks before I had my first match, and
Wow.
yeah, way too soon. I definitely wasn't ready, but my opponent was this guy named Sledge that took real good care of me. Um, After that, I trained for about 3 more months there before he shut the school down because he built rings and MMA cages for business, and he got too busy with that, so he had to shut the school down. And from there, I just started taking bookings wherever I could get them and learning on the road as much as I could.
What was the best advice that you received?
I couldn't possibly narrow it down. The ones that I always pass on to people are, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is the best thing that can happen to you, in a certain way. Some other good pieces. I mean, I guess if I had to pick one, it'd be that. That's the one that I always go out there with. Is just to not be afraid to fail. They're gonna love it or they don't. But this is what I'm giving them.
Okay.
Can't please everyone.
Okay, cool.
So
Cool. Now,
are we going to be seeing more of you, say, in the Northeast? I mean, have you been looking at promotions like Limitless? Because when I look at their roster, I see a lot of guys who I'd love to see you up against, like Ace Romero.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go anywhere. I'm very much got roots in the Southeast right now. That's a region that put a lot of faith in me and has given me opportunities. Reached out to Limitless a couple times and haven't heard back from Randy yet. I'd like to get up to Blitzkrieg like we've talked about off air, but I dig grind. I dig what grind is about. I absolutely love the people running it. I met most of that roster way before grind was ever a thing or before I had really much name value. Not that I'm a big star now, but it's to the point a lot of people know who I am and my abilities at least respected. So if I would call anywhere in the Northeast like a home or anywhere I'd like to be, it'd be grind. I'd like to help build that company and get it to a point where it can help build me and others.
Can I just throw out my recommendation for a dream match for you in Grind?
Absolutely.
How about the Golden Grappler Travis Huckabee? I think you guys could have a huge banger.
Travis is one of the best hybrid wrestlers I've seen. He is surprisingly adept with his strikes. Anyone that comes out of the training he did, I expect to be an exceptional technical wrestler, and he is. But he's got a savvy that exceeds his experience, and like I said, very underrated striker. And I think he's a little bit of a psychopath too. That's just my radar going off. But I mean, I watched him and Rip at the first Grind show, and they went just about shot for shot with each other. I mean, if you can come close, if you can go shot for every other shot with Rip, you're doing pretty well for yourself. But Travis more than held his own, even when it wasn't, like I said, a scientific game. But I'd love to wrestle Travis anytime.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
looking at you now, and then I'm going to pull a picture up, and looking at you here, this is definitely the Clark Kent syndrome. If I passed you on the street, Merc, I would not recognize you as this man right here. Do you get recognized out on the street from a random fan?
Not a bit, and that's literally the exact wording I use for it when people talk about it. I've been in locker rooms. I've been in matches with people who didn't recognize me when I walked up and shook their hand at the next show until I got into my gear. And they're like, "Oh, how have you been?" Like, I've been good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
like
mean,
you said, and
seriously.
it's great because it's not that different. My hair's down and I have my glasses off, but it's, like you said, it's an entirely different person.
I mean, seriously, it is definitely the Superman syndrome right now. I mean, when you were backstage prior to the technical difficulties we were having, when I introduced, I was like, that is no way the guy that we were promoting, because he
Yeah,
looks so much.
I've had people walk up to my merch table during intermission and ask if I was wrestling tonight after I had wrestled.
Really?
8x10s and t-shirts in front of me.
Wow. I mean, that. How does that make you feel? I mean, does it make you feel good, or does it make you feel like you did a good job?
It doesn't really. I'm pretty ambivalent about it. It's more funny to me just the degree to which it is. Because I mean, they recognize the guy in the picture. They ask if he's gonna be out here. How much do his shirts cost? So like they're clearly interested in him. And to an extent, like it's nice to be able to just kind of dip out of a show sometimes without getting hassled too much. But
You ever say, "Nah, that guy's a jerk. You want to buy one of my T-shirts? You want to buy one of mine?" Who designs your T-shirts?
I've had a few different designers. A buddy of mine who wrestles under the name Gideon Vane does a majority of my T-shirt designs, and then I go through Scat Screen Printing around in Fayetteville, Arkansas. They always the guy mostly does stuff for like the local schools in Fayetteville and his suburb and stuff, but he's buddies with one of the first promoters I worked for, and he's just always been my T-shirt guy. And he always cuts the boys great deals. He makes good shirts for really low prices, and he always throws in like a ton of just extra shirts. I've insane profit margins off of his generosity.
Okay, cool. You just mentioned the term "the boys." When did you feel you became one of the boys?
That depends on the locker room, and it's varied. I mean, being one of the boys it's not a universal thing to me anyway. I can walk into locker rooms and feel very out of place, and whether I don't want to be there or they don't want me there, or if my personality doesn't mesh there. And there are locker rooms I can walk into instantly with a bunch of guys I've met but have never met each other, or just guys that I click with, and I'm one of the boys. I mean, you just know if you are.
Okay.
That's the best way I
Okay.
can describe
Now,
it.
definitely with grind, you feel as if you're one of the boys.
For the most part, it is like there are some people there who I'm not super familiar with, and I noticed that I was a little nervous going in that locker room because I am a pretty shy person by nature, and I know all those guys knew each other. But walking in, even if I wasn't immediately buddy buddy with people, I clicked with like Alec Price was a dude. Me and him could just talk real easy right off the bat, and it helped to like already be friends with like Rip and Delmy and MSP. I knew them when they were still a three-man crew at Wrestlers Lab and stuff. So and like me and Logan, again, we're two guys we never met as far as I can remember, and just talking backstage and stuff, it just clicked, and like we're boys now, like that easy.
Okay.
I
Cool.
definitely feel I
Jack.
definitely feel at home at Grind.
Nice. Well, we're looking forward to you coming back because Rip and I are actually neighbors, which is cool. So I have a short commute to come see you next month.
Oh,
Or
fun.
sorry, not next month, this month.
Then you probably heard me screaming from his living room the last time I was out there because I crashed at his place afterwards.
Oh, don't tell Jack that, because Jack actually, Jack is Rip's neighbor, yes, but he also stalks Rip. Now, he does peek into the windows. So, Mark, if you do stay at Rip's place, keep in mind I will be at the show with Jack, but I will not be crashing Rip's place. I will be leaving right after the show, but I cannot handle Jack. Jack will be prowling around and he'll be taking photos, sneaking peeks through the windows. So just feel free to call the police department if you have to, because Jack, Rip will tell you, Jack is he's a peeping Tom.
Well, I wish that was the strangest fan interaction that I've ever been a part of or heard of, but sadly, it's not even the top 10, so
Oh,
I
please
don't
do
think I'll
tell.
even notice him.
Do tell. What was your your strangest fan interaction?
Oh man, I don't think I can tell most of them.
Well, what do you mean most of them?
Well, can I interject for a second? Because I don't know much about this, but I do know that when I was looking on your Instagram, and there was a video of this really scary dude who like got in your face and appeared to be a fan and like attacked you. That has to be top 10.
Yeah, I guess it was. I'd kind of forgot about that.
Wait! Hold on. You got attacked by a fan?
Yeah, this was so I see the company that I'm champion for, TWE in Chattanooga, was hosting ICW. They were gonna do a doubleheader in the building, and I wrestled John Wayne Murdoch in the pit for the American Deathmatch Championship. And so to help promote that, I wrestled a guy, and we teased me hitting him with a bundle of light tubes, and then Rob Killjoy, who will also be at Gods and Monsters on February 25th, a longtime opponent of mine. Rob Killjoy come out, run me off, and he's cutting a promo in the ring, and I've still got the bundle of light tubes, and there's a guy standing there. This no guardrails, mind you, in this building. This guy standing there, and his little girl, who I guess was about 6 or 7, is standing there, and because I'm a big mean heel, I give her mean bad guy face, and she kind of hides behind him, so he goes into dad mode, and I really don't begrudge him for that, but he's like, you need to back the hell off. I'm going to do like, why don't you make me, big man? He goes, what the fuck are you going to do? And I say, I'll bust these fucking tubes over your head. So he gets up in my face. And I think he expects me to back down, because a lot of wrestlers do. If a fan gets in their face, they just walk away.
Yeah.
But he was right there, and I just stood my ground, and I think he got embarrassed, and he, I guess, tried to throttle me by the throat, but he never got his hands around my windpipe. And he pushed me back, and all I could think of at that point was like, I better not drop these tubes, because I'm going to hit him with them, and it's going to get 1 million views on social media. And I did, and it did. He pushed me back where there's this little cutout for commentary. So I fell over. I didn't get the shot on him that I wanted to, but I was able to bust him and cut up his head a little bit, and that shook him, and then security pulled him off. And the best part of that is what you don't see in the video, which is where he called the police, and then the police looked at the footage and they were like, "Thank you for calling us. You're under arrest for assault." So dude basically called the cops on himself. Um,
Nice.
And
But,
we have a
what
comment.
Oh, Championship Wrestling League says, "No way, dude. Tune those marks up."
Wow.
sounds like a hell of a league. Championship Wrestling League. Tuning works up.
Wow. And the guy called the cops on himself. That is just insane.
That's the cherry on
The
top.
fact that that isn't your top one makes me think, like, can we hear what your top interaction is?
Man, most of them, a lot of ugly old women messaging me, telling me I'm attractive, which is fine, whatever. I mean, women wrestlers deal with that way more than I do. But it's also
See, didn't I tell you Jack was a stalker?
It's also dudes messaging me asking how much to send them videos of me working out in gear, and dudes messaging me offering me a place to stay if I'm ever in the area, and then pretending to be 19-year-old girls who are on their friends' messengers trying to get me to stay. Just some real weird fan shit goes down.
Wow.
You may not even be able to count those as interactions so much because it's all like just real. It's almost like creepypasta. It's just all in the DMs. Most of it's urban legend and shit. I'm trying to think of any other good fan stories. Man, I can never think of them off the top of my head. But if my buddy Luke was here, he could definitely remind me of some good ones. Fighting Granny at the TWE arena is always a good one. There's this old woman who sits up front, and she has to get physically restrained by security anytime a heel goes out there. Like, she is legit swiping at guys, talking shit to them the entire show, and she's a part of the show. That is, she's got reserved seats every show. She's there. She's talking shit. About got her hands on me this last show, but security was on their game. I'm sure she was rooting for the fan that tried to choke me out, but
There, my dad, my pop, God rest, used to tell me, because he was a huge wrestling fan. Used to tell me back in the day when he was growing up that they had a woman that used to sit in the front row, and they called her Hat Pin Annie. And when the heels used to walk by, she used to jab them with a hat pin all the time. And this goes back into the day of Antonio Rocca, Gorgeous George, Haystacks Calhoun. And she used to jab the people. This is someone down in Norwalk, Connecticut. And it's when my dad was a kid. And they called her Hat Pin Annie. And she used to jab. I wonder if she's related to, what did you call her?
Fighting Granny. TW
Fighting Granny.
I hope she doesn't get any ideas.
I wonder if they're related.
Wouldn't surprise me. I pulled a gun out of that purse you guys got with her. That was one of my favorite running bits at TWE for several weeks in a row. My buddy Luther X, who was a heel there, every time he'd leave, he would just grab her purse and run to the back with it. No matter what he was doing on the show, he'd find a way to get out there and bump down by her and grab her purse and just run to the back with it. And security would always have to come get it from him.
That's
and
fantastic.
What is her reaction? I mean,
they gotta hold her down and keep her from coming back through the curtain and stuff. And eventually they get it back to her, but yeah, she gets pretty hot about it for a sec.
Okay, well, how is she during? I mean, is there fan interaction during intermission down there, like it is up here?
I think she goes outside and smokes during intermission, would be my guess. I don't ever see her at my table. So.
Hopefully, it's cigarettes and not crack. I mean, my God.
I think so. I don't get. I've been around plenty of meth and crackhead crowds, and this is mostly just insane Southern lady energy, not so much crackhead energy from this particular one.
What's the coolest sign that a fan brought to pay homage to you that you saw in the crowd?
That's tough. I don't get a lot of signs out on the indies and stuff, especially down south. But
Well, we'll
I've
make sure
seen
you get some up here.
I appreciate. I've seen several that have had the bazooka on it when I was still carrying that around, and the coolest one was the first time I went to Mexico. It's like December 2018. I just went over the border there, as in Monterrey, and but when I was announced, like I'd never been out of the country up to that point. Like this was before Japan, and the second time I went to Mexico. But a fan sent me a picture of their kid that had found a pair of goggles and a scarf like mine that I wear. Because I mean, you all saw it when I come out. I had the goggles and the shemang that I wrapped around my face, and they sent me a picture of their kid that was uh, basically a merc costume, and I thought that was pretty cool. Just in another country, kid that never met me but saw me on the poster and was excited. I thought that was really dope.
Awesome.
Way cool. That's way cool. It's like a Merc cosplay. That's the best.
Exactly.
Jack, follow up with some questions.
Yeah, well, Mark, I wonder, because I think it seems like one of those things when a lot of fans look at the life of a professional wrestler, they think, the obvious hard part's fighting, getting beat up, and maybe even hurting yourself, beating up your opponent. But I wonder for you, like, what's the part that's the most challenging? Is it in the in-ring physicality? Is it the traveling? Is it some of like the mental challenges, like the stress of like traveling to new places or new countries? Like, what's the hardest thing for you?
It's the toll that being in a car takes on my body. I've driven out to New England before on a several day loop. I've driven to New York several times, New Jersey, down to Florida. I've driven to Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, North Dakota, Michigan. I've put a lot of miles on every vehicle I've ever owned. And it didn't used to bother me so bad, but as I'm getting older, nothing that happens in that ring tightens my body up as much as being in a car for 10 hours. Like that's
Yeah, I would imagine, especially
last
like you said, if
couple-
you're on a loop.
the last couple of years, I got stuck riding by myself a lot, and I had to do a lot of long drives, which meant a lot of sleeping in my car, and that I started to really feel that a year and a half ago. Like I could really tell that was starting to take a toll. So I'm a little pickier with my drives and stuff now. I'm not as afraid to ask for flights. Having kids and stuff kind of makes you prioritize that more. Just at a certain point, like it's not worth putting your body through that for X amount of dollars when I could be home, not killing myself, or at least letting my girls beat me up.
Yeah.
So, and I'm lucky. When I moved to Oklahoma this past spring, I was fortunate that there are a couple guys in the area that were hungry enough to get in the car with me, and so I've got some consistent travel buddies now. Because where I was in Missouri, there was no one; it was just me. But it helps to have people to share the drive with that can split a hotel room if that's necessary, and so that's taken a lot off. I mean, just split costs too. Like I can make a trip more worth it just because I'm not carrying the entire financial load by myself.
Okay. When you did have to drive by yourself, how did you cope? What was your coping mechanism? Did you listen to something? Did you, what kept you going? What kept you company?
Mostly being a third generation traveler of the roads. My grandfather was a over the road trucker for 50 years, and my dad is to this day. Um, on that side of the family, there's a rich history of making a living doing the drives. So it's ingrained in me, luckily.
Okay.
Like a 5-6 hour drive that's a light weekend to me. That's being home that night. But aside from that, I mean, it was a struggle. And just give me a second here. My phone's about to die. So if
Okay.
you lose me for a second, I apologize, but it's about to. If I have to, I will. Thank you. But I became a big podcast guy the last several years.
Okay.
Mostly comedy. Um, Sorry, let me get some light on my face. My charging pin quit working on me, so I've been using just the cordless chargers. So, but so mostly podcasts. I got kind of burnt out on music a while back. Weirdly enough, I'd listened to about everything I wanted to, and I found several podcasts I like. So
Mhm.
that's mostly it. And a lot of times, if I start to kind of get burned out on hearing other people's voices, a lot of times I'll just turn it off and ride in silence at least for a little bit. I obviously don't go on very far like that, but it gets me through when I'm tired of hearing people talk.
Okay. Cool.
How did the pandemic work for you? Like, were you able to somewhat consistently wrestle, or was there any of the sort of pre-tape matches, or did you have a hiatus? How did that work out for you?
My hiatus wasn't any longer than anyone else's really. I benefited from it. I made more of it than a lot of people did. My stock, I think, has gone up during that first year of it than it had in any single year prior to that, based off the fact that I was willing to do some of those drives to certain places when, for one, a lot of people weren't for health reasons, and then the money was low for a lot of places because crowds were down or non-existent. So, and it's kind of a chump thing to say, but I was kind of used to taking that hit to the pocketbook. I'm not on the level of a Warhorse or a Danhausen as far as commanding an asking price from promoters. So when, like, Action Wrestling's the perfect example, when they were starting to get back up and running, and like, well, right now we can only give you this. I was like, well, that's okay because I'm coming here for the opportunity and the exposure for the most part. And then, especially those first couple of shows, I had matches against Manders and Bailey Blake. And then slowly, as the pandemic kind of eased and their capacity went up and their revenue went up, they were able to increase my pay. And I established myself as a regular part of that. And I had a regular payday. And then that payday went even further once I started getting guys in the car with me. And they'll do, Action will do the next up stuff before their shows where they could give guys dark matches and film it. So I invested in a company and they invested back into me. And that got me into the Scenic City Invitational. I had match of the weekend against Daniel Garcia back in August.
Mhm.
Go watch it if you haven't. I'm extremely proud of it. And that match in of itself led to a lot of my character evolution where I'm going now, where I dropped Graham Bell and I've kind of evolved the mercenary gimmick into the generalissimo gimmick and going from there. So I mean I just refused to stop. Wrestling's all I've ever wanted to do. I never expected to live through a global pandemic. So I did what I could, and I don't know, just kind of maybe having the pressure off of, hey, independent wrestling's in full swing at its height. Every second counts. Maybe having that pressure off of like, well, there are no fans here, or there are less fans here, or hey, this again, it's a no fans taping. We're just having fun because we want to wrestle. I think that freedom and that lack of pressure helped me kind of figure out what I wanted to do, what I could do, what I should do, and just kind of let me grow naturally. Maybe it took me out of my head, is a good way to say it.
Okay. What is the expectations? I never asked this question before, and it just kind of you were talking about traveling. What's the expectations of going to a territory that you've never been to before, or you've been to once or twice. You did have the whole please come back chant to come back to grind. But going to a first time territory, how do you gauge how much merch to bring? Especially if you're traveling, if the promotion is going to fly you out or put you on a bus. How do you gauge your merch? How do you know what's, okay, do I bring 100? Do I bring 20? How many 8x10s? How do you gauge that so you're not underselling yourself and you're not bringing too much stuff?
Well, I mean, when I'm driving, I bring everything I have. It fits
Yeah,
in the trunk. I can throw boxes and stuff in there, and little stuff like stickers and pins and stuff. I mean, you can throw those in a bag. They don't take up any room, and then you make
correct.
room for T-shirts. Obviously, those are the big kind of space killers. And then when you're flying, I didn't take any with me overseas because I was very much packed to the gills as far as just clothes and gear and stuff.
Yeah,
But when I went out to grind, I prioritized having merch because my gear is very simple. It's pants and a belt and kick pads and knee pads. I can fit that in a
okay,
backpack. So my free carry-on I was my merch bag. So I had
okay.
t-shirt, pins. I need to get some 8x10 soon. But I mean, merch is, for most people, or at least for the people who make the most money in independent wrestling, merch is where that money's made. The
Yeah,
payday and
that's fine.
everything is nice, but I've had a show that I book in Missouri. There's a guy I pay $75 to come in, and he made $400 in merch the last time he came in. So,
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. When you like, you'll be flying out here to entertain us. You know, you're gonna be wrestling for us. You're coming out here to go one on one what Rip. And if someone in the crowd say wants to buy one of your T-shirts after you're in the ring with Rip, and you have 25 people, they all buy your shirts, and you have that one kid, one teenager that like your performance touches, and he's like, I want to do that. I want to do that. You know, when I get out of school, I want to start doing that next week. And he goes over to your table. I want a T-shirt, and you're like, I'm all out. Where can they get that T-shirt?
mostly just messaging me. I've got one design up on What a Maneuver. I've got some older
Okay.
one up on PWTs, who's kind of an anathema on the social media right now. But mostly I handle most of my merch. I don't have a huge internet buying fan base. Most of the people who see me, they see me in person, they see me in person. And,
Okay.
I get more of it when I ship my own stuff out. I just have experience with physical merchandise, so I prefer to mail it out myself and get that bigger cut of it. I prefer someone to order from me so I can get the $20 profit than the $8 to $10 profit I get off an online retailer.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
I'm glad you mentioned the Scenic City show, because I think it was Rip who said that you had a really great showing there. Can we see that on IWTV? Do you know?
Absolutely, Scenic City Invitational, Night 1, 2021. August the 8th is when it took place. Is me and Daniel Garcia were the third match on that card.
I can't wait to see it. That's going to be some of my viewing.
Oh,
Well,
his phone died.
oh no! Well, I'm glad we got some of the merch promotion in there.
I
So
tried.
we want to make sure that you guys check out Merc on social media, because you can definitely hit him up for
Oh,
T-shirts.
hold on, he's back.
Oh, okay.
Device is not connected. Hold on, he's working on it. He's working on it.
That Daniel Garcia match, I'm going to find that tonight. I want to see Merc versus Daniel Garcia.
Mm-hmm. And he's back quickly. All right.
We were on a
So
pretty good
we can
streak
find
there
you
for a
on.
while.
So I know we
All
can
right.
find you on Instagram at It's Just Merc now. But are you on any other social media platforms for people to follow?
Mostly just Twitter right now. It's at Merc with Main. Play off Deadpool's Merc with a Mouth. But that's really about it. I'm not too active on my Facebook these days as far as promoting my stuff goes. As far as social media, I'm a Twitter and Instagram guy. Like you said, it's just Merc now on Instagram and Merc with a Main on Twitter.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Jack, where can everyone find us each and every week, and where can people find your Patreon?
You guys can find my Patreon. If you go to patreon.com, just search Jack Purcell. There's the pencils for my next piece for Blitzkrieg Pro featuring Kevin Nash, Lindsay Dorado, Evil Uno, Max Caster, a whole bunch of other guys. There's like 10 people in it. Jimmy Hart's even going to make an appearance. So it's going to be fun. So if you're on Patreon, you're supporting the arts, make sure you check out Jack Purcell because we need some support over there. And you can find me at Jack Purcell Inc. And I actually got back on Twitter. I'm not sure why. I haven't really done much there, but I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Jack Purcell Inc. INK. You can find us at Faces and Heels on Instagram, Faces and Heels Podcast on Facebook.
On Facebook. And you can find me each and every Monday night on the Angry Geek Show with that Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan. Every Tuesday night right here with my brother from another mother, the one and only Ink Slinging Jack Purcell. And you can find both shows, Faces and Heels Podcast and the Angry Geek Show, both on Greenfield Public Access Television and South Hadley Public Access Television. You can also find me every Wednesday night in Colorado on the Mayhem Show with Mark May and the Mayhem Show, something like that. I am Lewis, that's Jack, and this is Merc. Come and find Merc in 2 weeks in East Hampton, Mass. Is it? East Hampton.
East Hampton, Mass.
I'm even gonna be there. I am gonna show up with Jack. The Angry Geeks, not Jamie. She's not gonna go, but I'm gonna be there. And while I have a camera, you'll never know. But I'm always gonna have a mic. I'm Lewis. That's Jack. This is Mark. We'll see you guys. Well, he won't see you. He'll see you in East Hampton. But Jack and I will see you next week. And of course, I'll see you almost every night as I live stream with somebody. Stay safe, San Diego.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.